Okay, welcome to the Practical Tanya. We're in the middle of chapter 26, the second part, and the title of the class is Overcoming Guilt. So, a quick review of last week's class was about, I said this in the last week, but I'll say it again because it's worth repeating. In chapters 1 through 25 in Tanya, we basically get two paths to having a relationship, a real emotional and intellectual relationship with God that can change our behavior. One path is called the long way. It refers to contemplation. So we contemplate about God and our soul and the closeness and higher purpose. And we excite ourselves. Through that, we develop real, love and awe for God, for the infinite. Okay. The second path we described is the short way, that when you're not able to, have the depth yet of intellectually overcoming, intellectually, thinking about God and motivating oneself. So what do we do instead? We remind ourselves that we have a spark of God inside of us that we're so bound up with that we would never do anything to, we would give our life, that Jews have given their life to stay connected. And we remind ourselves we have that. Essentially, we're telling ourselves we never want to be disconnected from God. If that's the case, then we would never. Then every sin should be taboo, because every sin is a disconnection from God. For that moment, of course, we can always reconnect. We have teshuvah, but in the moment, we should be like, well, this is not for us. This is not something that we. This is against ourselves. Who cares if it's a second or a minute or a year? And that's what we got till this chapter. We spent 25 weeks doing that. Now, this chapter is starting what we call the troubleshooting chapters. It's very nice that you can have two paths that give you a real path for a real relationship with God. But the question is, real life gets in the way. And if real life gets in the way, it might stop these two paths from happening. So we start off saying in chapter 26 how it's so important to be in a positive, happy mindset. Not that that's the goal, that we're seeking some euphoric, feelings. That's not what we're looking for. We are to generate a happy, positive, upbeat attitude in order so we can do our purpose. What's our purpose? As the Tanya says, your purpose is to be a Beinoni, to be someone who has control over their animal soul and never veers from their godly soul, getting the expression that it's meant to have, and never letting the animal soul overcome it. Now, let's say you're very smart. Let's say you're a big contemplator. You're a very intelligent scholar, but you're sad. You allow yourself to feel sad for whatever reason. When we talk this, we'll see there's some legitimate reasons a person might feel sad. Real reasons. What's going to happen? You're going to be sluggish. What's going to be sluggish? you're going to be weak. You're going to be not motivated. And then the animal soul, which is called the old foolish king by King Solomon in Proverbs. The old foolish king will win. Why will the old foolish king win? Because you're sluggish, you're not in your tip-top shape. It's imperative to have a very motivated, happy, in the terms it gives in the Tanya, the psichas halev. It just flows, the heart flows. You're not bogged down with emotional, toxic baggage. So we said last week there's one type of baggage that can bog someone down, and that's worry, issues in the material realm, whether it's financial, whether it's family, or whether it's health. If someone has one of those, and could be a real problem, they might, they can feel sorry for themselves, right? And if they feel sorry for themselves, what happens? They feel sad, they feel sluggish, and they don't do a good job. They don't approach their mission in life, their service of God, with a tip-top form. Even though it's legitimate, there's legitimate worries. So what do? We need to have a way to deal with it. He didn't say, wait till you have no worries. He says, no, you got to be happy, you got to be positive even when there's troubles. Well, what's the methodology? She says you have to reframe it. You have to reframe what's important to you. First of all, he's like this. First of all, 2 steps. One, realize that when we have, welcome, Gennady. We have to remember 2 things to always be in a positive attitude. One, whenever troubles come your way, it's not that God is necessarily angry at you and punishing you. On the contrary, the fact that you're experiencing a trouble, it comes, we spoke about, from a higher realm of God. When things are good, that's God sort of distilling infinite power into like a very finite package, how you appreciate it. When things are not good, it's still God giving you something. God's still bestowing upon you, but it's from a higher good that's not comprehensible, that you can't understand in this physical world. And the example we gave last week is if you take a 5-year-old to a pizza place, they're really happy for the cheap, for the bargain dollar menu, you get a pizza and fries and a Coke, and the kid's ecstatic. If you tell the kid, I'm going to take you to a fancy 5-star restaurant, they're like, what did I do wrong? Why are you taking me here? Or, a kid for a birthday, a 5-year-old kid, what do they want for a birthday present? A toy, a fire truck, a Lego set. Well, the parents say, you know what, this year I love my child so much, I'm going to give them something way better than just a fire truck, a toy fire truck. He gives a $50,000 CD. The kid sees a paper, and what happens? Big box, really nicely wrapped, and inside is a CD, an investment for this kid's name for $50,000. The kid sees it, was expecting, the usual toy, and didn't get it, starts bawling. So that's a parable for us. When we get, good stuff, we'll go, oh, great, we like that. When we get stuff that we don't like, or we can't fathom because we're finite and it comes in a negative form, we can't see how God's still caring for us. It's coming from even a higher place of God's closeness to us. It's so close. It's not fettered by a comprehensible format. But we don't like it. So we say, give us the greasy pizza. Give me the fire truck. I don't want the more lofty, exalted good that I can't understand. I want something that tastes good. And indeed, we pray every day for God should not give us challenges. And indeed, something we pray for, that God shouldn't give us challenges. We say in the morning blessings. But if it does happen, we can think, wait a second. This is actually God giving me a closest to God's infinite, mysterious ways more so than when life is tip-top format. Now, you might say, okay, well, that's really nice, but I'm a simple guy and I can't appreciate that. So step 2, to help yourself overcome the worry and pity that we have when we go through troubles, step 2 is to remind yourself of your priorities. What are your priorities? It should be attaching and getting close to God, to the infinite, not something temporal. When you remind yourself that's your real priorities, which I believe for most people, we might not realize it, but many people, it is a priority. And if that's the case, then we have to remind ourselves that then even if it doesn't feel good, I'm getting my priority. I'm getting closer to God than even in a regular day, in the best of times. So that's always, and that was a way that we can deal with troubleshooting. We can deal with problems. We're trying to do our mission, trying to be animal soul, godly soul focused, overcoming our temptation of the animal soul. We feel sad. Here's one way to deal with it. Reframe it and reprioritize what the trouble is, and then you'll be able to be much more upbeat. Then there's the second. Now we continue to the second part. If you have the Practical Tanya book, we're on page 304. This is where we talk about guilt. What's guilt? Guilt is of things that you did wrong, that you acted below. It could be different types of guilt, but we're talking guilt about sins, things you did wrong. Now, a person could think that, wait, if I have guilt about religious matters, I feel sad, I feel bad that I did things wrong. I did something, a sin that I shouldn't have done. I should have known better. A person might think that that's holy. Why? Why not? Because you got stuff, you did something wrong, you're facing up to it, you're acknowledging it. Why is that bad? Excuse me. So we're learning now in Tanya that's not correct. If you're the majority of your day, if you're going about your business, let's say you're praying. A person is praying or they're studying Torah, 2 big mitzvahs in a day. And suddenly it gets into their mind, oh my gosh, last week I did something so reprehensible, like I gossiped, I did something wrong, I ate something I shouldn't have, I was mean-spirited, I sinned against God. You remind yourself a minute of prayers. Can we take a poll here? Who here thinks that is a holy thought? Holy thought or unholy thought? You're praying, you remind yourself you did something, you actually did something wrong last week that was really, you never faced up to it. Is that holy or unholy? If you want to use the chat box, use the chat box. If you want to put your video on or unmute yourself, you can do that either. How many people think that's a holy thing? So Deb G says, holy during Tachanun. Okay. Tachanun is a time of confession. That's a time. But not holy the rest of the times, you would assume. Is that what you're saying? It's unholy the rest of maybe not. What about everybody else? What do you think? You're praying and suddenly you fall into your head that you really have to repent, you have to face up to what you did wrong a week ago. Holy or unholy? So, yeah, Lee?
I'd say unholy, to push the thought aside and finish prayer and then deal if you want to afterwards.
Okay, very good. And Carol says holy. Carol, do you want to elaborate why you say it's holy?
Well, just because the recognition of it, to take the time out to recognize.
But right, okay. My question, so you're saying even though you're in the middle of prayer, the fact that you have this legitimate issue you got to deal with, it's coming from a good place. You're trying to deal with it.
Right. I mean, I guess maybe in a way it's a little bit, the question is a little bit confusing because perhaps we shouldn't get distracted, but then again, at some point, you have to, once you recognize something and try to deal with it, I think that's a holy thing.
Okay, very good. So we got a little bit of perspective. These are normal perspectives, that range of perspectives. So Tanya is going to say not only that if this thought comes to you, meaning, remember we learned about that all the thoughts we have come from one of the souls. It comes from the animal soul or the godly soul. Does anybody recall that?
Yes.
So where is this thought coming from now? The godly soul or the animal soul? It's another way of saying holy or unholy. Where is it coming from?
Unholy.
So the answer is it's coming from the animal soul. What's the proof? The animal soul isn't like the stupid, bungling fool that tries to go to war with you. The Tanya is called, the animal soul, although it's called the old foolish king, that's only because what it's selling is foolishness, but its methodology is very crafty. It says, well, if you say, okay, I want you to think about like idol worship, whatever, I'm not doing that. So instead, it'll try to get us to think about things that we find relatable, even under the cloak of holiness. And this is one of them. Like you're praying, you're doing something good, and now the mere fact that it's a distraction from what you're doing right now, that alone that's a big problem. That alone should be a warning sign. So that alone makes the fact that it comes off prayer, this should not be dwelt upon. This is not coming from a good place. This is only to distract you from the task at hand. Tanya goes even further to say, even if you're your desk, typing a report, something very mundane, nothing too spiritual, and it comes to your mind, I really have to, I have to think about what I did last week, and I'm gonna think about it right now. The sin I did, because I got to own up to it. He argues that even that is coming from the animal soul. And what's his proof? That right now your task is to go make a living. Something mundane. You're engaged in something mundane. Right? Where does this come from? How do you suddenly just like out of nowhere become all spiritual? Let's say it's coming from a good place, right? Why, like, where did your like godly soul get aroused to get so excited and to start doing this holy thing about, spiritual inventory of your sins? The answer is it didn't. There was nothing that excited you or aroused you to be like that. Where's it coming from? The animal soul. The animal soul just wants you to get down, to have guilt, because that is one of the most powerful tools of our animal soul. When we are sad, we're not an effective fighter for our mission of goodness and kindness, of our godly soul overcoming. If we are in a down state, that alone gives the animal soul free rein. And you think about it. Let's say someone does something bad, right? And they're dwelling on it. They feel guilty. What happens next? Do they go fix it? Or more often not, they just stay in a rut and they do even more negative things because they feel worthless. Right? When you feel like you're a failure, what does it even matter? I'll just eat the whole ice cream. I'll eat the whole ice cream. I'll binge watch TV shows till the whole night. Because what's the difference? I'm a lowlife anyway. I messed up anyways. So that alone shows you this is, if it's pushing to that direction, this is already a warning sign. But the fact is, if we have stuff that we if we have stuff that we, have to deal with, if we have stuff we have to deal with, what should we do? Ignore it? So there's an expression called face, trace, and erase. I'm not exactly sure the typically what it's meant, but we can use it in this way. Is that something comes to your mind, not only in the middle of prayer, but even in your desk, you're thinking, you're having guilt, you're feeling bad about something you did. You say, okay, this is a thing. Let's not talk about it right now. You erase it from your mind right now. You trace it. You say, okay, this is something. I don't know exactly what the expression means typically, but we can adapt it here. Face it, trace it, meaning say, I'm going to go deal with you at length at another time. And then erase it, then get rid of it. Because, well, let me go through, before we do the cute little rhyme, let's go through it. We have to tell yourself at your desk when you have guilty thoughts, now is not the time. Now's the time. Now, this is not coming from a good place. This is not going to end well. It's not going to help. I'm not going to become a better person from dealing with this now. If I really care, if this is really important to deal with, I have to do this in a calm state of mind at night. Typically before I go to bed. We say the Shema. The Shema is known as an inventory time. I'm going to deal with them. So I'm not saying I'm not going to. This is a real thing. Okay. Meet me. Let's make an appointment tonight at 11 o'clock. What's going to happen at 11 o'clock? Who can guess what's going to happen at 11 o'clock? Is the animal soul going to come back to you saying, you got to deal with this problem you have? Anybody? What do you think?
Maybe.
Well, typically not. Because again, this is all a ploy to make you feel bad about something you did, to drag you down further.
Mm-hmm.
So you say, okay, I want to deal with it for real. Let's deal with it at the best time, 11 o'clock before I go to bed. No. You called the bluff of the animal soul. It's not going to come. Now, you typically, even with the animal soul, meaning it won't naturally come. Before we go to bed, we should think of our day and think about what we did wrong, what we could do better. Because that's actually a good thing. However, it's important to mention one more thing, that the Tanya's way of why is it important to give an appointment for later on? Why is it important to give an appointment for later on? What would you say? What would we say before? Your animal soul comes to you, says, hey, you should feel really guilty about what you did yesterday to your mother or to your spouse or to whatever. Start thinking about it right now. Why should you meet me tonight at 11 o'clock? What's the reason? Because it's not going to do anything good. However, when you go do it at night, you have to think less about the actual sin and how bad you are, how reprehensible you are for doing it, and more, this is a very important paradigm shift, more about who you sinned against. Less about your lowliness of messing up, and more about how this goes against God's, this infinite caring creator, how you went against God. And that's a very important thing to realize, because sometimes when a person is reliving, rehashing their sin, and they really feel bad, they want it, but subconscious is a little bit of like a reliving it, with your mental, watching the rerun. And again, it might feel like, well, I'm facing up, I'm being a man, I'm being, feeling guilty. And we tell ourselves, when it becomes about you, that's a problem. Even in trying to make amends. It's like, let's say there's the example they give of like two surgeons that, two top-notch surgeons, and they were doing an operation on a patient. They lost the patient. They couldn't save a patient. So one surgeon says he really feels so bad for the loss of life. I really wish he could have made it. I wish I could have helped him more. And the other surgeon says, I can't believe I can't believe I messed up, or I can't believe I didn't, work harder. And I failed this guy. What's the difference? One is about the guy and one's about the self. As we said many times, the Tanya is all about, its key term is ego. Its key description is ego and selfishness or self-orientedness. So we're talking about in this chapter about guilt, overcoming guilt. We have to realize that you really have to remove yourself from it. First of all, so when it comes to the middle of the day, you say, I'm not dealing with this now. And if it comes to prayer, this is for sure a distraction. This is for sure a Trojan horse, trying to come in under the guise of, oh, be holy, fix your problems. You're trying to mess up my prayer, trying to mess up the mitzvah I'm doing. And the second thing is that we have to always remember that Hashem, we have to focus less about what we did against who we did it to. And that's when we do it before the Shema. So that concludes our, we're not going to do the Chayenu. I said from 8 to 8:30, we're doing our weekly Tanya class. And now from 8:30 to 9, we're going to talk about the Chayenu. So for those of you that know what Chayenu is, or signed up, I have it here. This is, I'm going to take my virtual screen off because I think it can't handle the Chayenu. Okay. Back to my not so fancy office. All right. So Chayenu is a weekly book that it's got 200 pages, and it has one goal. Its goal is to help everybody study, have a consistent Torah study regiment for yourself. Particularly, gives many different things to study, but the main things this was created to help people with was to learn the weekly Chomesh, one aliyah a day. There's 7 aliyahs, 7 sections of the parsha. So it has it in, if you're on page, if you have it, it's on page 6. I know some people don't have it. So maybe I'll share a screen to something so you can see it. Because there's also an app. Put the app on. All right. All right, the app is pretty cool also. I'm gonna put it up on the screen so you can just get up there. Meetings. All right. This is, well, there goes the echo. How do I can just not share the audio. Excuse technical difficulties. All right. So on the screen, I'm going to show you my my phone because I have the app on my phone. Share screen, start now. Okay. So everybody here, if you see on the screen, this is the Chumash app. I think you all have access to it for the 6 weeks. Am I clear? Because I hear a little bit of an echo.
You're okay? I can hear you fine.
What page was that?
All right. Oops. So as you see here, we have the Chumash. Now, if you have the hard copy, which you can see on my little screen I have right here, it's nice. But the idea is that to help you learn the Chumash. I can't. I'm sorry. I gotta turn this off. Share. All right, I'm sorry, I can't. Unfortunately, the echo is too difficult to listen to. So if you have the Chumash, it's you see the Chumash there on page 6. It also has the daily Tanya, the daily also the Tehillim. Okay, let me back up. The Rebbe, quoting from his father-in-law, said every Jew should be studying the daily Chumash with Rashi the commentary, because in it you gain so much knowledge, and in Rashi, which is a pretty straightforward commentary, it's really concentrated of so much Talmud, Medrash, even secrets of the Torah is all concentrated to Rashi. So a Jew who learns the daily Chumash and with the Rashi is really getting like a tremendous education. Number 2, there's an expression we talk about living with the times. The author of the Tanya one time said a Jew has to live with the times. And what he meant by that was, it doesn't mean, the newest fashion. He meant that a Jew has to really live with the Torah portion of that week. Not just wait to Shabbos, the whole week, every day you learn a little bit, you try to apply. Abraham, this week we talk Abraham, it's beautiful stories. What's the message that we can apply? So on a basic level, just to learn it is going to help you so much and so much knowledge. In English, of course, because it has a beautiful English translation. And also it helps us live with the message because there's a certain special energy of the Torah portion for this week. Then the second thing is, if you have the booklet to page 73, on page 73, there is the Tehillim. Now, we pray every day. The previous Rebbe made a special enactment that after prayer, in Jewish synagogues, they should split up the Psalms, the Tehillim, which is the Psalms, the whole book into 1/30 approximately, and every day of the month you do a different part, just to read in Hebrew. Saying Psalms is an old tradition. It wasn't about study; it was about more prayer. Jews would say without even knowing what it means. There's holy words you're saying, holy words of King David. we say it as extra prayers and supplications to God. And of course, there's the daily portion of Tanya. It's the last probably month and a half of it, almost a little more than a month. We'll be finishing the cycle of the Tanya because it ends on the 19th of Kislev, which is the Rosh Hashanah of Hasidism. And we just learned before, we had our weekly Tanya class. It's a little more in depth, of course, and this is more quick paced, but you do get a large breadth and knowledge of ideas that you would not get with a weekly, more in depth Tanya class. Again, you don't do one or the other; you can do both. Then, and I'm going to do. Let me. I can't bring up the app, but I'm going to bring up on Chabad.org. You can get this same, not the same publication for free, but you can get these things to learn. So I'm going to show you. I'm actually going to post it right in the chat if you want to bring it up. I'm going to bring it up. Chabad.org/daily study. Okay, so I'm going to share the screen to show you that page. So if everybody sees here now, this is on Chabad.org, daily Torah study. And they have, just if you go to that, it goes to every day, the exact portion of the day. So today is the Parsha Vayera, fifth portion, fifth day of the week, Thursday. The Psalms, Tanya. Then there's Hayom Yom. Hayom Yom is from 1943. The Rebbe wrote a little booklet of like a little Hasidic saying or like insight for the day, culled, little snippets culled from the deepest wisdom. And a lot of times it's really beautiful, very great motivational, short teachings for your day. And then there's, of course, Rambam, the study of Maimonides. Now there's 3 tracks. There's the advanced, which is the 3 chapters a day. It takes about an hour a day to do, which is, I don't recommend it for most people. Then there's the 1 chapter a day. It takes about 15 to about 20 minutes, 20, 30 minutes a day. But you learn 1 chapter of Maimonides' book Mishneh Torah, which was the codification of the Talmud into simple laws format. And if you do that for 3 years, you learn essentially every single law in Judaism in a very condensed Cliff's Notes format. Then there's even shorter, there's the really micro version called the Daily Mitzvah. It's just a quick blurb about the mitzvah of the day that they're doing in the 3 chapters. So it doesn't go into detail, it just tells you the general mitzvah. Okay, I want to point out the reason I'm promoting this, and for those that didn't see this in my email, the offer is still open to you. If you go to my website, jewishpittsford.com, you'll see on the homepage, it'll say Chayenu free magazine. Click on it, and I will sign you up for a free 6-week gift subscription for this booklet and the app, and you can try learning Torah on your own. But the reason I was thinking this in Simchat Torah, we were by the synagogue in Chabad, and we were saying, of course have to learn Torah, but it's so important to realize that there's only so much you can learn from a class, or you can even learn from listening to class online. You have to have your own study cycles that you're learning, your own book club, so to speak. And these are these are really the primary ones that everybody should be doing. The Rebbe called it equal to everybody. Anybody can do this, and even before you just doing it, starting today, you're already connecting to something very powerful, a real powerful thing. And of course, over time, you'll see the benefit of it. Any questions? I'm going to show you a little video. Of the Rebbe talking about learning this. So this is a video they put out. You might have seen it, but this is where, if there's any Chabad person will tell you, Chitas, the acronym for the Chumash, Tehillim, and Tanya is called Chitat or Chitas. It's slang or acronym for Chumash, Tehillim, and Tanya. And of course, the other two are just sort of added on because they came later. This is something that the Rebbe promoted. The Rebbe told people that had issues, problems, that they should do this. It says some type of spiritual protection for the person, almost like the mezuzahs. So I'm going to show you a quick video of a documentary where they put together of the Rebbe talking about this, and even a beautiful story of someone who the Rebbe told their parent was very ill, and they did this and helped. Of course, we don't learn for the magic, potion, but I think it is important to realize that this is really, it's not just another reading item on your book to-do list. This is something which is the Rebbe called essential. Here we see. I want to welcome Alan Altman from Cary, North Carolina, friend of my colleague Rabbi Kotler.
No, I'm from St. Augustine.
You're St. Augustine. I'm sorry, you're from Levi. Sorry, this is sorry, we have different people from different places to sign up. So this is actually from Rishi's brother, Levi,
Right.
friend of his from St. Augustine, Florida.
Yes.
And what inspired you about the Chayenu or the Chitas?
Well, your email seemed interesting. I didn't really know what it was. I've been taking those classes, and they seem pretty good. So I wanted the classes that you give. So I think there's another class coming up. So I just wanted to get into it and see what this is all about, because I find those classes so interesting.
You're talking about the JLI class, I assume.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've taken about 10 of them.
So those are beautiful courses, but those are all like taking ideas and putting them into one series. This is not as learning the Daily Chumash. It is a theme, but it's a little more it's not as nicely packaged. It's doable, but you're sort of like, imagine, to give an example, someone gave you a 6-part series on Shakespeare versus reading it yourself. You can only talk so much about it. Sometimes you have to sort of delve into it to really get into something. So I'll show you a little video. Can everybody hear well? Thumbs up.
Came up some questions I write it to the Rebbe. The Rebbe writes me one word. Chitas? Question mark. Die Shiuri מיוחדים, was בעל הגיולה מתמייסים gewesen und mit Passen gewesen. Und das sind die Shiuri, was Nomen gegangen, Chitas. Was by another couple of months, I write it to the Rebbe. The Rebbe answers me again. One word. Chitas. Wenn jeder Tag mit Parshas HaShavua, wie jeder Riechen von Ascholas HaParsha, die Schöne, wie sie sehen, wie jeder Shabbos von Shvi, wie sie Kol HaSeder. Auf der sehe ich in Tivoli, der Shiur Chodshi. Auf der sehe ich der zweite Tag in Tanya, und am nächsten Mal soll Masfil sein, und die Zeilen sein, den Sefer Tanya, der Meshach HaShona. I start saying Chitas, couple of months, I kept on saying Chitas. I wrote into the Rebbe, every question was answered from the Rebbe to me. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. I wrote to the Rebbe, I said, very often I feel weak. I feel that I have my doubts. And basically, I want to be a Mekosha of the Rebbe. The Rebbe looked at the paper and he said, it says in the Hayom Yom, the main attachment is with Torah. Through Chitas, through learning what I learned, through learning of Torah, one becomes totally unified. Yichud niflash ein kamoy nimtze klal megashmis. Und der Riker ist auch wie bedurme wie mit Zolta, beschas mit Zave, mit Kayem den Zivon. Is a Kiva der Zivon kommt von Achochom Achi Godel. Sagt das so, wie Zanolam Achi Boshu. Und der Odom ist Mikaim und dem Zivui, wird hat Zivui, nechet Meloschen Zapsa, the Hebrew, Ados is Mechabe, the Odom, Achiposhos, mit den Chochom, Achigos.
When I was 5, my father was not well. The hospital said they feel they need to operate on him. But to operate on him, it's very possible they'll leave him as a vegetable. One of the people who went through the war with my father, whose name was Rabbi Sorojinsky, said such a question ought to be put to a Gadol Yisrael. He sent 23 letters to all Gedolim across the world. He got one reply. The Lubavitch Rebbe replied that he has it from Kabbalah, from his ancestors, that one who says Chitas sees a Yeshua.
Zu sein Segen zum Leben Marash, weil ich Chitas Elokim, Al-Kol Hori Moele, weil ich so. Was Kol Bierdemol gesagt tegen, bis nicht angedrückt, dass als Bruder bekam in Yoni.
So Rabbi Yisrael said, I decided to call the Rebbe directly. And he said, we've received your letter, but the man is too ill to do chitas. So he said, well, let his mishpacha do it for him. He says, unfortunately, he's lost all his mishpacha in the war, he has no one. So he said, well, let a friend do chitas for him. Rabbi Yisrael was not a Babishach. And he started doing chitas. After 6 weeks, they saw a marked improvement. After another 6 weeks, they did release him. Baruch Hashem, he was fine. Said Rabbi Yisrael, that was more than 40 years ago, and I have not stopped saying Chita since then.
My father, by Chitas, one time the Rebbe asked him if he learns Chitas, and he answered the Rebbe that he says to him after davening every morning by Minyan, and he learns Chumash, but Tanya he doesn't learn because he doesn't understand what he's learning. The Rebbe said to him he should start saying the words of Tanya also. As far as understanding, you should buy this Tanya that's translated in Yiddish at that time. And you should learn. And my memory was, my father, as hard as he worked, he would come home and he went through Chumash and the Tanya, because this is what the Rebbe had told him to do.
I'm gonna read this every day, even though I can't do it right now.
Hang on a second.
This production is made possible through the generosity.
So that's that's a little bit about it. So I was thinking maybe to, and a lot of people in Rochester got the book, we got them the gift. I was thinking maybe it would be an idea to do this, to meet on Sunday nights, to sort of encourage each other. Hi, Howard, how are you? Welcome. So I was thinking, I don't know if anybody saw the video we just played. But we just talked about the booklet. We're in the middle of talking about the booklet. So I was thinking, did anybody get a chance to look at the booklet? Anybody want to share? Like Alan, did you look at it yet?
Oh, well, I wasn't sure what to do, so I looked at it. But so you just go through it from one end to the next.
So let's take a little moment now. I'm going to show you an example of what you do, how to use this booklet. So if everybody, whoever has it, please, and for those that don't, I'm actually going to share the screen again, and I'll show you can do this online at Chabad.org. So we're going to do the daily Chumash a little bit now. If you have it on the screen, you can do it from the screen, or if you have the booklet, feel free. So on page, what page is it on? It is on page 47 in the booklet. So I'm gonna show you how you sort of just learn the Chumash. It's not very difficult. I'm gonna read just in English. You see it says, and feel free to stop me if you have any questions. I'm not gonna see the chat because I'm looking at the book. Avraham was 100 years. So the daily synopsis, it gives you a little synopsis, just to give you a little excitement what you're going to learn today. After the overthrow of Sodom and Amorah, Sodom and Gomorrah, Avram moved from Hebron to the land of Plishtim, where he was 100 years old, and his wife was 90. Sarah gave birth to their son Yitzchak. In the meantime, Hagar's son Yishmael was showing himself unreceptive to the moral education he was receiving in Avram's household. In order to prevent him from becoming a negative influence on Yitzchak, Sarah insisted that Avram banish Hagar and Yishmael. Avram was reluctant to do so, but God validated Sarah's judgment. Okay, that's the synopsis. Verse 5, or Hey, if you see on the board, it says 5. And Avram was 100 years old when Yitzchak, his son, was born to him. Verse 6, or Vav. Sarah said, God has caused me happiness. Whoever hears about it will rejoice for me. By the way, if you could do it in Hebrew, read the Hebrew, it's also good, but if not, just do the English. 7, Zion. She further said, look who it was who told Avram, Sarah will nurse children, for I have indeed borne him a son when he is already old. Okay, I skipped. So one thing you got to do is you have to keep track, and it's a little bit difficult here that it's in Hebrew letters. So Rashi, if you look on the screen, for example, it's in Hebrew, the Hey corresponds to the number 5, Vav to 6. So in the screen, if you go to Chabad.org/Torah study for the Chumash, you see it says here, and Sarah said, let me move this away for a second. And Sarah said, God has made joy for me. Whoever hears will rejoice for me. So right after you read the verse, if there's a Rashi doesn't give commentary on every verse, but on some he does. So you read the Rashi. So I'm going to read it actually in the Chayenu, but if you want, you can read it in the tan on the screen. So he said, Yitzachak li. Whoever God caused me happiness. And she said, whoever hears will Yitzachak li, will rejoice for me. It means here, rejoice for me. So we have, you understand, Rashi comes for a couple reasons. Rashi was like, the arts was like the translation back then. He was translating from, more obscure biblical Hebrew to more modern Hebrew, to more spoken Hebrew. So he says, what is Yitzachak li? It means Yismach li. It means rejoice. The person will rejoice for me. Okay, so then it goes on. The Agadic explanation, Rashi says, is many barren women were taken account together of her. Many sick were cured on that day, and many prayers were answered together with hers. And thus there was much rejoicing in the world. Meaning, one second. Carol, do you have a question for annotating? Okay, if you have a question, feel free. So this is an example of Rashi. You read the verse. Whoever hears will rejoice for me. Now, again, if you had it in the Hebrew, are the previous days available online? Yes. Very good question. So if you want to do the chitas online, you go to chabad.org/daily study. And this is what comes up. If you type in, see at the top, I'm just doing daily study, it links to here and it gives you the daily thing. If you want to do an earlier day, you go to the arrow here on the top and you go back. Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday, and so on, or calendar, pick any day in the year you want of the daily Chitas Torah study. But being that I just want today's, I'm going to keep it on today's. Okay, so back to the Chayenu. So God says, so the verse says, he will rejoice. What does it mean he will rejoice for me? So simply, it's saying, okay, they'll be happy for me. But he brings down a medrash that explains, actually, that was a great, when Yitzchak was born, it was a day of rejoicing for hundreds of people because God sent blessing into the world and many people were cured, or barren women were also. Where other barren women were remembered in honor of Yitzchak, this great righteous couple, Avram and Sarah, having a child. Okay, so 7 we said, she further said, look who it was who told Avram, Sarah will nurse children, for I have indeed borne him a son when he is already old. She's saying, like, look, God, so what does it mean? Again, when you have the English, you're already getting a little bit of this in it already. In Hebrew, it's a little not as clear. So Rashi is the one who makes we get the English translation based on Rashi's comment. So Rashi says, look who it was told Avram, me, when it says this Hebrew expression, me, look, who it was, it's an expression of praise and distinction. There's other places, if you look in the bottom, footnote 87, he quotes some additions add other verses in the Torah where, like, mi bara elah, like the one, look who created these. It's like an extolling of God's greatness. Look who it is and to what extent he keeps his promise. Like, look who's talking, the Holy One, source of blessing, promise and carries out. There's a question. Oh, you mentioned me on Sunday evenings. What section of those meetings cover? So I think what we do on, Howard. Yeah.
I'm sorry, for some reason my camera's not working. So
okay.
Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt what you were doing, but just when you're done with that, I just wanted to ask you.
Yeah, I think, well, it's sort of a freestyle. I was thinking we can maybe just learn a little bit. We could learn the Sundays together, or maybe give a little bit of insight for the general week. But we can't do the whole week. The whole thing is do a little bit every day.
But were you thinking of focusing on Chumash, Rambam?
Oh, very good question.
I mean, there's so much here.
There's so much here. Look, again, as I mentioned before, this is really, to start with, is to give us, to do Chumash and Tanya. And if you could read the Tehillim, and here they only have the idea of Tehillim is just to read it, really. It's more of a spiritual prayer thing than it is understanding. Tanya and Chumash is more about understanding, therefore the language isn't as important. In Tehillim, it's more about the reading the words. If you don't have it, if you can't read Hebrew well to do a daily portion of Tanya, you can get the Tehillim online. I believe if you go here, look, I'm going to daily study, or in the Chayenu app. You see, they have it all. The daily, you can read in English. You can read, a psalm by the Sons of Korach, and read it. It's more of a spiritual prayer thing than it is understanding it. So I guess we would just do the Chumash and the Tanya. Maybe a little bit of the Rambam. The Rambam would take a very long time. I want to point out another great asset on Chabad.org for doing the daily Chumash. If you go to the video, does anybody here prefer to read themselves, or they like hearing an online class?
I prefer, personally, I like reading myself.
Reading.
And then
Is anybody else would enjoy having a daily class? Because there's recorded stuff that's incredible. If you happen to like a class, there is a rabbi who unfortunately passed away. His name is Rabbi Josh Gordon, and he videotaped his classes on the Chumash and Tanya and the Rambam. And if you go to the video icon every day of the Chumash text or video, it'll bring up his video. This is him.
So we're here today.
Incredible teaching style. That's just if you happen to like a class, you can just listen in the car or whatnot. Okay, but I'm not sure. I guess we could sort of meet Sunday and figure it out from there. I think we'd start with the Chumash and the Tanya, and we can maybe talk a little bit about the Rambam. Or we could take another interesting section to do one small thing. There's so much. What can I tell you? Like I can't say that I'm going to read the whole thing by Sunday night to be able to curate for you the best parts. You know, I don't think I'm going to be capable of doing that.
So, hey, Yitzi, I don't mean to interrupt, but could you describe, talk a little bit about the difference between the daily study section, which is huge, and then there's the weekly study section?
Very, very good question. Okay, so the main purpose the Chayenu was created was to help people do Chitas and Rambam. Right? Chitas being the acronym for Chumash, Tehillim, Tanya. If you didn't get that so far. And Rambam is the daily, either mitzvah or the higher learning track, the one chapter a day of Mishnah Torah. It's about 25-minute, of learning. That's a daily thing. Weekly is, they said, once we're making this, a booklet, we're printing up here, a weekly digest. They included just nice stuff that you can learn. It's not like everybody's learning this, but you can pick what you want to learn. So I'm going to just give you an example. Thank you actually for bringing it up, Howard.
Thank you. You're welcome.
If you go to page page 174. So that actually, this is a daily Chumash insight. This is in the Chayenu. Thank you, Lee. The daily Parsha insight is like a little Dvar Torah on the daily portion of Chumash. And actually, if you go to page, for example, we were just doing page, we were doing Chamishi, we were doing the fifth Aliyah, that's on page 47. So if you go to the next page, 48, which is still in the fifth day, the Thursday quota, it says Daily Insight, page 176. So it tells you that on verse 10, or Yud, they're going to give you a little Thursday's quote of Chumash, a Dvar Torah from the Rebbe. So, for example, just read it. Sarah said to Abraham, cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman will not inherit together with my son Isaac. We are told that Ishmael, although still quite a young man, had by this time already started to fall into idol worship, illicit relations, and murder. Yet the main reason Sarah gave for demanding that Abraham banish him was because he failed to acknowledge that Isaac was Abraham's rightful heir and claimed that they would both inherit Abraham. And moreover, as the firstborn, Ishmael would inherit a double portion. This false sense of entitlement stemming from his haughty and arrogant attitude and led to his other forms of degenerate behavior, and Sarah rightly recognized this as the root of his corruption. Meaning, she could have said, the kid, this is a murderous guy, get him out of here. But she said, no, he's an arrogant, self-entitled, youth. Similarly, we can safely say that most of, not all, the moral degeneration that we see in the world is the result of the failure of the nations of the world and the Jewish people themselves to acknowledge the unique role of the Jewish people in God's plan for humanity. As God said to the Jewish people as he was about to give them the Torah, if you vigilantly heed my voice and keep my covenant, you will be my treasure, cherished above all nations, a kingdom of priests and holy nations. I mean, the Jews are the teachers of the world. The awareness that there is a God and he's a plan for creation, and that is the task of the Jewish people to educate the rest of humanity how to fulfill that plan, is the foundation of all morality. Wow, that's heavy. It is a very condensed summary of a teaching of the Rebbe connected to this quote of Chumash we're doing. Okay, we go to weekly study. But they had that as part of it. So page 180 is Geula. It talks teachings of the whole week to connect you about learning about Mashiach. The Rebbe said it's something we should all be learning about because it's something when you learn it more, you understand it better. What is this Messianic era? What is it? What are we working towards? Page 180, any questions on? Please feel free to ask any questions if you have.
I actually have another question, Yitzi.
Great. Thank you for being the brave one.
Well, I'm sorry. And again, I apologize that my.
No, go, it's good.
Okay, I don't know why it's that. I don't mean to be rude. So this, the Chayenu is covering the cycle, for example, the cycle of the study of Rambam, right?
Yes.
So is there, does that mean that when particular parts of Rambam appear in the cycle, that there's some sort of thematic connection between this part of the cycle and what we're reading in Chumash, for example?
That's a fantastic question. That means you learned enough, teachings of the Rebbe that you can even have the question.
All right, well,
There's no like, it wasn't deliberate in the sense of like, we're making it match up to that. It's not. However, with the general belief of divine providence, many times in Farbrengens, the Rebbe would find a common theme between them. So it wasn't set up deliberately to have like a thematic connection. It's just going through the book in a beginning to end way. But the Rebbe would find connections, saying it's divine providence like that.
Thank you.
Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. Page 183. They the past couple of years they put in a classic ethical work, predates Hasidic movement by far. It's called The Gate of Trust. It's actually from the book called Chovos Halavavos, Duties of the Heart. It was written, I think, in the 11th century. And it's really helping address one of the main issues the world has, or people have in the world today, and as always, is worrying. It's a very systematic approach to putting your trust in God, and like why that's logical and rational to do, and why worrying has a lot of preconceived things we tell ourselves that are not correct. So it simply goes like thing by thing, how to like stop being a worrywart and putting your trust and faith in God, while of course being, responsible. So they do a little bit every week. Okay.
And is that like most of this from the Ashkenazic tradition, or some of this from Sephardic?
It's a very good question. Rambam was Sephardic. Shar B'tachon was Sephardic. These things are not even considered like Rambam. When no one says Ash is Sfard, it's like these are universal things for the Torah world.
Okay.
Like everybody learns Chovos Halavavos. It's like it's a classic. Okay, Talmud. So they don't do the Daf Yomi. That's way bigger than this, but they do a book called Ein Yaakov. So Ein Yaakov was Rabbi Yaakov ibn Habib of Spain. He took all the like more esoteric medrash parts of Talmud, not the legal part, and put into one book called Ein Yaakov. So it quotes here, it's basically Talmud, but it's only the more like interesting esoteric stories. So they just put it in because it's also a classic thing people would learn. Okay, page 188. This is Hasidus. They give a little bit of Hasidus every week. And actually now they are doing it in conjunction with my favorite teacher, Rabbi Sheis Tau. You see on page 189, he will give a video class on this portion, on the essence of Hasidus. It's a great classic. What is Hasidic teaching? And he's going to teach it. He's an incredible. So if you have time in the week, you want to just read this. I'm actually going to pull it up right now. You go to soulwords.org/Chayenu, CHAYENU. And then you go to it and you see it's going to pull up Essence of Hasidus. I am guessing it is the, I have a feeling that, I'm trying to see chapters 2 and 3. Because right here it's chapter 4. I have a feeling he might have not done it yet this week. So maybe, let me go to his homepage. Oh. All right, anyways, whatever the case is, if you have the app, by the way, you can go back, I think. I think you can go back a couple of days. But this is a class of the Essence Chassidus. Even if you don't have it inside, it could be he does it Thursday nights. Maybe he's doing it now. Let's see live. I wonder if he's live. No, he's not live. I don't know. I'm not sure why it's not up yet. But they have last 2 weeks. They don't have this week. But you can read it. It's something you want to read. You want to learn with the class. But you can read it and you can, Okay. Then I'm going to stop share. Okay. Deb G, I have a good question. Is trying to add these things to one schedule, but not all at once. Is Rambam the last priority add for women? Very good question. What I would recommend is the Sefer HaMitzvahs is like a 1 minute read. So don't do the Rambam part. That might be a little bit much. You're not saying if you want to do more. I would say as the last, I do Chumash, Tehillim, Tanya. But even when you're doing Rambam later, you should do the Sefer HaMitzvahs, which is on page 168. That's a 2 minute read or a 3 minute, a 1 to 3 minute read. Now at least you're doing a little bit of Rambam in the more general, what the mitzvah is, not getting to the details. So there's that. And then, there's the weekly, it talks with Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. It gives a little selection of halacha on page 196. And then 198 is also Dvar Torahs. The Dvar Torah. 200 is really good. It's a letter from the Rebbe every week they put. A letter from the Rebbe. 202 is a Hasidic story. Hasidic stories were always a big part of education. It gives you the morals and the ethos of the Hasidic movement. Always good to read that. And that's it. So what are people's thoughts? What interests you? What say you? Anybody? I'd love to hear what.
Now, Yitzi, you're going to continue the Tanya class.
Yeah. Tanya is now going to be on Thursday nights.
Okay.
8 o'clock, and I'll do this on Sunday nights. Here's my thought.
So you won't be talking Tanya on Sunday nights.
Well, we'll do the Tanya inside here, which is different than what we're doing. We're learning Tanya 1 chapter a week, more at depth. Here it's more, more going over breadth. I want to tell you right now, Tanya is a little bit difficult in the Chayenu. It's a little more esoteric. It'll get back. The cycle starts over in a month, about a month and 10 days, or about a month. So worry not. But look, there's 2 reasons we do this. One is because a Jew has to learn Torah, and you have to learn the whole Torah. You have an obligation to learn the whole Torah. Every Jewish man and woman. Now, maybe not learn the whole Talmud, but the Rebbe said learning the Chumash and Rashi and learning Rambam, you're learning the whole Torah. And the Tanya, you're learning at least all the basics of esoteric wisdom, of Kabbalah. So this is sort of like a way a person can fulfill learning their mitzvah, learning the whole Torah. But in addition, as a Chabad, follower, and I think everybody here has a connection to Chabad and to the Rebbe, is this you saw in the video, we showed the video before, the Rebbe would tell people, if you want to be connected to me, you should learn what I'm learning. And I learn Chitas, I learn Rambam. It's sort of like, you want to, if you learn from the teaching of the Rebbe, read his letters, you have to learn what he's basing it off of, And in a very spiritual way, the Rebbe said in the video we saw, this is something that brings tremendous spiritual and physical benefit to someone and their family when they learn Chitas.
So will you be saying the week before, hey, guys, next Sunday, we'll probably look at this section for the class?
One second. I don't know because on one hand I could tell you like a general like overview, but the real work of this is just spending a half hour a day. That's really what it is. I think the Sunday would be maybe people could read. How about this? How about everybody reads the Sunday portion themselves, and then we talk about it. We ask questions on it, or we get to it on by night. So at least we have one. We start the week off with a little more, oomph. Is that an idea? I'm thinking there's like to do it to help you practically be every day. We'd be learning together, which I don't know if that's possible at the moment. Even not learning necessarily like, listening to me, you learn b'chavrusa. Like one thing I recommend if people are willing to make a 20-minute or a 30-minute chavrusa with someone else here, it's very powerful, very, very powerful. You just take turns reading. You read how, so you're coming to an appointment, a business meeting. So that's really an amazing thing. If people wanted to, if you're interested in that, you can just, email me or text me. And I'm happy to do it. Right now, I know Mike Rosenhaus is learning the Chumash and the Rambam, perhaps the Tanya. He's the poster child right now. He's the Pittsford and Rochester Chayenu poster child. But if you like learning yourself, do it yourself. I don't know. What would you like to get on a Sunday night? Like, what would you like to get ideally on a weekly, powwow?
Just for me, I think if it's going to be once a week and it's going to be on Sunday, I think the best, in my opinion, would be to do an overview of the week's portion. So everybody has an idea of what happens this week. And then throughout the week, people can reference back the ideas. They know the direction where the week goes. Personally, for me, the Chitas is nice that it's small portions for the daily, and it's kind of bite-sized. But it is like a daily thing, and so if it's just once a week, and you just do that one Sunday Aliyah, I don't know if you get the full gist of the parsha.
Yeah, okay, we can do that. That's
And also, I'm not sure if I can also make it every Sunday.
Right. Well, we'll record it or something, or I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's a benefit, and I'm trying to help people just sort of, calibrate, and
while I'm here, you did recommend Rabbi Hein the Rabbi Gordon videos a few years back, and I found them to be kind of easy to, especially when I'm driving or doing some.
Right, if you have it on your phone, you type in on Android or Google or iPhone, you do the Rabbi Gordon app.
Yeah, but there are others as well. The big thing is that the Hayeno magazine is nice. It's easy to read and stuff. But on the go, you can't really always read, especially for work. But some of the audio or video is good for on the go.
Right. I'm going to send. I'm going to send right now to the email. I'll send an email. You can also have a WhatsApp group for the Daily Chumash and Ryan Tanya. If you have questions, you could put a voice note or you can type, and that way, we can sort of encourage each other. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, Yitzi, if I can ask, how would you go about using this on a Sunday that would best? I first of all, I like Gennadi's idea, but I'm also thinking maybe along the lines of what Gennadi's saying is that you're basically saying, hey, this is something you should check out this week because this is something I think is really interesting. I mean, maybe there's a way for us to proceed like that as well. Like I'm curious to know how you personally having this wealth
What helps me?
yeah, like how would you go about using it in the course
So the main, you have to understand, the weekly stuff is nice. I don't necessarily get to that. That's like if I'm interested, I have extra time. The main thing I have this for because I made a commitment to myself that I want to do the daily Chumash and Rashi, I want to do the daily Tanya, and I want to do the Rambam. Okay? So it's just easier for me to have 3 books, and carry around. I have a nice thing, I keep it in my pocket, and whenever I was on Trader Joe's the other day, I was waiting online for a while. So I was reading some of it,
Right.
And it's more of a convenience. So the thing with this is, I'll tell you, I found personally, it depends on your personality, the commitment is the biggest deal. The commitment is the biggest deal about, can you, which one's so easy? Commitment is the biggest deal, and you got to figure what's going to get you to sit down for a half hour to do the daily Chumash. Even when you don't get it, some might be hard. You might not get it. What's going to help you do that? Will it be listening to Rabbi Gordon's class? Will it be reading it with a friend? Reading with a family member? What's going to get you to take 20 to 30 minutes a day to read the Chumash and the Tanya and the daily mitzvah? That's the question. A half hour. Give yourself a good half hour, perhaps maybe more sometimes, but what could you carve that out? That's the first thing you got to think about. Personally, I like learning with another person because it helps the focus, it helps make it more, it becomes dry, it becomes more alive and whatnot.
I guess for me personally, I'm excited to learn with this. I'm just a little bit overwhelmed in terms of how to begin. And I don't know if there's a way to maybe specifically to this Chayenu to kind of maybe take us through. I mean, I know that's kind of what you did tonight, but and I did miss the beginning before the video. I came in at the video. So I don't know if you did something before.
No, I didn't do much before now.
Okay. But I don't know, to kind of take us through, I mean, I started the parts that you said that you felt were the most important, I guess, to start with, but maybe kind of as an example of I don't know, any tips or whatever to break it down a little more, to make it a little more simpler. Cause I guess I'm excited, but a little overwhelmed. I don't know if anyone else feels the same.
Right, absolutely. So what I was saying Sunday, I can give you a little overview, but first of all, I don't know if I'm able to read the whole thing before and on Sunday have to know what to look forward to for everything. That's one. That's what I was thinking. It might be a benefit even Sunday just to do it. If I just read it, and explain the way, learning it, and we can field some questions. So you get an idea of learning Chumash and Rashi, at least the first day, okay, you can do it well, so to speak. And then for other days of the week, you can either do it on the Rabbi Gordon app, which is excellent. I would tell you, Shifra, if you don't mind listening to somebody while you're reading it, I would, I think if you can listen to the Rabbi Gordon app every day for Chumash and Tanya, you're going to gain a lot because he's very clear. He's very American. It's very he's a funny guy, and it's really a pleasure to listen to. So if you read that with the booklet, you can read it yourself, but also listen to someone guiding you on a daily portion. I was thinking maybe Sunday I could give you a little bit of a guide for the week, but even just to maybe start off with saying, okay, let's do Sundays. This is the Parsha. Let's do maybe an extra section. We'll do the Rashi, and you're going to have questions with Rashi style. It's just the way it's going to be. You know what I mean? I can help point out how to learn at least Sunday's Rashis, so you get some of this, the stylistic way. And so too with Tanya. That was my idea, to have one good start day. We can overview a little bit the week, but then it will give you a basis to continue Monday and on, That makes sense, Howard? What do you think?
Well, yeah, I definitely think that there's some merit in essentially, because I want to agree that, I mean, it's a ton of stuff. And I mean, there's some merit, I think, of you modeling
Right.
here's this tool that I'm dropping in your lap.
Exactly.
Let me show you some starter ways of, best practice of how to make the most of it. And if we can go like that for a little while,
Right.
and then once I get more familiar with everything, then you know what I mean? But for starters, sort of modeling from you would, I think would be very helpful for me.
That's what I was thinking, because, if I tell you, look forward to Tuesday, but you're not comfortable with the style of the Rashi commentary or the Tanya, which is going to be a little complicated now. I think we could start with doing a Sunday modeling class, and then, for the rest of the week, we can have a WhatsApp group. I know I don't like more WhatsApp so much, but it is something. So I can actually send an email out of a link. You can sign up to the WhatsApp from your phone. So that way we can have one, whoever.
I just also speaking for myself, I know the idea of starting with Sunday. It seems like I don't know if I can commit to like a Sunday and then a middle of the week. I mean, especially these days, work's been crazy. But
Right.
I mean, having that one sort of thing, that's definitely something I could just agree to.
You like Sunday better or not Sunday?
Speaking for myself, I think Sunday's fine.
Okay.
But I don't know what everybody else thinks.
That's the only day I can really do it. So by default, I can record it if someone wants. We can.
No, it works for me. I mean.
All right, everybody. Well, I guess we'll. I'll send you an email with the WhatsApp link. You can sign up and feel free to ask questions. I think everybody can feel free to post a voice note or a text. If you have a question, you can just voice note your questions on WhatsApp, and I'll try to respond. And other people can see your questions, and that way we can have an ongoing discussion about this, because it's really it's a real book club, So.
Absolutely.
All right, I gotta hang up. Have a good night, guys. Be
Good
well.
night.
Good luck. Looking forward to this.
Good night. Thanks.